Okay, so here we are on the levy stage, second turn, second 40-day period in summer. And I kind of lied. There are some things that I want to deal with in a little bit more detail because, well, at least one thing. All right. So, a couple of observations that I've noted. First of all, something I mentioned before. And these ravage markers, I don't think they can go away. I think they last the whole game. There might be an exception in the event doc, and we'll see how that works. I tend not to study the random events, although in this they have a certain degree of generosity that allows them to be kind of more studyable than, they're not like the cards in a CDG where it's like, oh, look, so-and-so dies, great, which are just kind of, gosh, where'd that come from? Especially if a player controls it, but whatever. That's a different story. So, one of the observations I wanted to bring forward that may be obvious to everyone, but when you build your command deck, the more officers, the more lords you have on the board, the less each one can kind of do on average. Granted, you can gather up a force under a marshal and do quite a bit with that single force by giving orders to the marshal. But, the fact that I have 4 things on the board, well, I had to get Heinrich over with Knut and Abel so that they could operate kind of together. And it's just one of the things you have to try to set things up, because otherwise you can't coordinate a bunch of people all off doing their own thing, So that's one thing to keep track of. The other thing, and the reason that I actually am videoing right now, is because at the beginning of the levy, you draw a couple Arts of War cards. But on the first turn, those became automatic capabilities. On the second and later turns, those are read for the event. So for example, this one. Field organ. You can hold this, and in a battle or storm, you're able to increase your melee strike by 1 for knights and sergeants. That's pretty impressive, especially in a storm. But sergeants would go from 1 hit to 2, and knights from 1 or 2 to 2 or 3, depending on the type of thing. So that's a cool card, and I don't know quite where to keep that. Haven't gotten there before. Bountiful Harvest. Immediately remove 1 ravaged marker from Livonia or Estonia. Okay. So there goes that victory point. There's how they disappear. And now it's a tied game. This one is not available for the levy step, so I won't be grabbing that capability. Let's do the same over here. Hill, hold. May play if defending in a battle. Round 1 and 2, Russian archery is more valuable. Does more hits. Very cool. And a no event, no capability. This gets discarded immediately. Nothing can be done with that. Let me see where I'm going to. Payments? Well, I may have some. And again, I should have paid things off when I took that loot and stuff, because that's hard to carry. Coins were different. The loot was a bad move. But now I have to kind of look at my leaders. So Heinrich. So in particular, I've got one leader here, Yaroslav, who needs to get paid off. And unfortunately, I got nobody to pay him. Why did he get hurt? He got hurt because he didn't get fed, I guess, once. So he's going to be a problem. I don't have any money on him, but I got money on Herman. So I will pay him off. And that moves him and his vassals forward a space for the cost of a coin. And that seems worthwhile, because I'm in close contact with the enemy. Others, nobody's in direct danger right now, And I don't have any loot, so yeah, I'm good over here. What about over here? Well, again, nobody's in direct danger. This is the turn I'm on. I don't have any loot. I don't think I want to pay anything off. Even if there was just why is there not? Why is Dromash's... Oh, he's got a more expensive militia. Okay. So that's a little different. That means nobody has to disband. It's kind of hard seeing, the current turn marker. I guess it's clear, but it wouldn't always be. So like last turn, there were a couple of these cylinders sitting in there. There might be some things ready to dissolve. So sometimes it might be kind of hard to tell the current turn. I kind of wish... I don't know, there was a pawn. I mean, I can grab a pawn for it. There are extra pawns. So nothing has to disband. And that means I will go to the muster, which the Teutons have to do first. And basically, I'll be looking at each lord, seeing, are they in friendly territory? These guys are. These guys are, because they captured a location. And all the Russians are. So everybody's going to be able to do a levy step. Okay, for the Teutonic muster phase, and I get to place him actually. Right, no, he goes in Called Arms. I knew his effect takes place in Called Arms. For the Teutonic muster phase, well, what did we do? I mustered both of Herman's forces, and now that's known to the Russians. You have to do the Teutonics first. And grabbed him an extra cart. Now he's got a huge army here, but he's also got Yaroslav with him, who took an extra cart as well, and the Treaty of Stensby. We're going to have to do a lot of actions, but I can actually do some mustering actions with Yaroslav, and Yaroslav can draw from here. And he can't get up here with those. He doesn't have boats. So yeah, he'll only be able to muster one supply if I use him. Whereas Herman, his actions will allow me to muster 2 supply, which is my maximum on each supply action. But that's okay. I may be able to fill some out with Yaroslav and then make the move there. And that's going to be my main focus this turn. I didn't try to raise up any extra forces, but I did use them also for the Treaty of Stensby, which gives additional commands over to Heinrich and Knut and Abel. So I'm planning on doing both the north and the southern area, I guess. Over here, did not muster any additional forces, basically just mustered transport equipment. Okay. And the goal there is to try to gain some more victory points up there, for whatever reason. All right, let's see what I do with the Russians. The Russians, Gavrilo added some more troops, and I think another cart. Vladislav, I have stacked on top, but he's not right now. He will be. Added a couple of his militia units, and these Luchniki, which are additional archers for the light infantry and light cav, and likewise Luchniki here, and some additional forces, I believe, were added to Damash's force. Damash has a large force now. I considered some other things, but I didn't do that. Okay. And now I get some coin. I'm not going to spend the coin yet. I can do it as needed, basically. Well, so here's the thing. The call to arms coin, I have to spend as needed. Damash has coin, though. So as long as I'm not too badly defeated. Oh, boy. He has this unit, which he has to worry about, but I can let that expire. But these guys have the problem of that is all of Vladislav's force, and I'm going to have to pay them off to push them forward. You know, I may just do it now because there's a chance I may lose my my command if I don't pay them off at this point. And that's the extra buck from the Black Sea trade. But I have to decide what the hell I'm doing with William of Modena. I could bring in Andreas, but I would rather not. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring him in here or wherever. It doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to move him to here with the hopes of bringing Andreas in next turn. Or at least the possibility. I don't really need his extra command up here. Although it would help. Jeez. It would definitely help. Yeah. I'm gonna have him join the Marshal and give an extra command. I think. Well, let me just count my points. He's got a lot of commands. If he does 2 supply, that fills him. Yeah. Now I'm gonna put him here. He can always move if I choose not to instead, and that gives me a backup force if needed. So I think that's it for Levy, or whatever it is. And that's going to move us to the campaign. We build the decks, we combine our forces and stuff like that. So first action of this campaign, Herman, as Marshal, is pulling Yaroslav down with him into Izborsk. My initial intention was, hey, I'll just fall back, but I had a problem. I have too many troops. So I'm like, you know what? I can take some losses, and we'll see what happens. Let's fight. I've got my Strelsky here. The reason I was going to fall back was to gather up more materials, perhaps, or something. But you know what? Let's just fight it. It might not be the best thing. No. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually set the battle up so that I've got Gavrilo here with his capabilities. And we've got a hold card, so that may actually help with this. I think I'm going to use that. But basically what I'm going to do is, I'll do it like this. And then Herman, doesn't really matter which one's in the center. And Yaroslav, you know what? I'm not going to move him. I've got Herman and Yaroslav there. It's not a complicated enough battle with just 3 lords. One of them's on a flank. It doesn't make much difference. And we're going to fight this out. But let me take a look at cards, see if either player wants to fight one. Knights and sergeants, melee, strike +1. I have a lot of knights and sergeants, so I'm going to play this on him. That'll last for this battle. And likewise, does he want his? Archery is ×1 with my Strelsky. I'm planning on using that actually with this force, so I'm going to hold that card. But we'll see what happens. The number of horses I have and the field organ have made things really ugly. During the melee, during the missile round, we managed. Let's see, we were defending, so we managed to. I think just take things out. Yeah, we managed to take one of these out, and then our horses managed to take one of Yaroslav's men-at-arms out. And that put us to on Gavrilo's side. They fire back, took out 2 of his militia, and now my knights coming back was included in this. They took out the men-at-arms, I believe. but now I get to count the total number of hits that I do. And it's 3, 6, 9, 10, 11 and a half, 12, 13, 14 hits. I got a lot of saves coming. His entire force has been routed. Now, this goes away. We figure out the effects of that. One side was completely removed. Well, was completely defeated. He's not removed. The side that conceded that has no unrouted units loses the battle. Proceed thus. All losing units must either retreat to a single adjacent locale that has no one besieged. Withdraw to that side's stronghold. I could fall back into the stronghold, and maybe some of my forces would defend. I would rather fall back completely, or be permanently removed. So this is going to go here. I've got to put this in. We fought. I choose. Let me see. I've got enough that I can carry my crap, but I may be in trouble otherwise. Okay. The defenders may not retreat along part of a way. Marching attackers who retreat must go back. Sallying attackers alleviate losses. Now we check for losses of routed forces, which is down here. Okay. I conceded the field, so my routed units will be destroyed on anything but ones. And we'll roll for that knight first. He's gone. 2 men-at-arms. Both gone. 2 light cav. Both gone. 2 militia. Both gone. Okay, everything has been destroyed. That may change the situation. Permanently removed to the game anyone who loses all their forces in the battle or storm. Gavrilo is gone. I believe, because that happened in the pursuit, all his stuff is captured. See, spoils. Leaders may have immunity. Yeah, everything goes away. I have to make checks on these other units, though. I have a Yaroslav man-at-arms, which survives, and a militia, which would need a 1 to survive. I'm not sure entirely what happens to that, because that is a militia from here. I don't think it matters much. But basically what I'm worried about is I'm not sure what happens if you have multiple of the same leader. So for example, this guy has multiple vassals that come with 1 militia. When a vassal goes home, does he take all the militia, or does he get removed when all his forces are gone? How do we mark that? I'm really not sure of the answer of that, and I've got to look that up. It doesn't apply right here, but I wanted to take care of it. Now, we have to eat. Well, Yaroslav is going to eat his food. Herman is going to eat his food. I'll keep these and figure out what I want to do with them based on the results. The coin. So this is kind of tricky because I kind of want a coin for each of them. I'm going to give Herman the coin. I think it's more useful there. The carts, I am going to give him the carts because he has more of a chance of sticking around then. And if I'm giving him all this shit, he might as well have the extra provision as well. There might be some issues with that, but not legally, just... Okay. And we got a siege. We did feed. We got a siege out of this. The will be it. Unless I want to pay. This is the issue. Is there anything I want to pay? I don't think so. I'm never sure, but I know I have other cards coming in the near future. Okay, and these go away. Gavrilo's entire pool is just gone. I hope I got all the right people. Yeah. So he is actually out of play. And that's about it, really. Let me look up the other stuff. This just goes away for now. If I lose this Lord, I have to withdraw the units that associate with him, which could be, additional problems going forward. So, yeah. We had an incredibly successful battle there. I knew that I didn't want to fight it. In one round I was destroyed. Even if I had withdrawn, I would be in trouble. But here's the thing. I mean, if I had stuck for the battle and said I'm giving up the field, nobody does that. You just withdraw instead. But, yeah, I was hoping that it was not going to be that extreme a battle. I was just wiped out. I lost a lord with the Russians. It looks like Pskov is going to fall to its rightful ruler. And the way is open and things look really, really bad for us now. Obviously, some steps have to be taken. Like, Pskov has a 3 leadership. That's not going to fall quickly. Like 3 fortification. Vladislav is launching an attack up against here. I'm way too bloody-minded for medieval warfare, I'm telling you. But he actually thinks he has kind of an advantage. This is kind of weird because he's got better quality stuff, but I got all these special archers and everything. We'll see. We'll see what happens. He's got no archers with his force. That could be a major, major factor in it. He's sticking and fighting because he's got good stuff. Can't really fit into the area. Can't really run away. Let's do it. Every step where only the attacker got to fight worked pretty well. You can see a lot of failures on the die rolls for defense. Heinrich looks like he's going to be routed from the field, quite possibly. But now we get the defending Cav attack, and I used my good card for Cav. At this point, I've got still 2, 4, 6, 7. Now these are going separately, so it's 2 hits against here and 5 against there. First rounds scattered a lot of his foot units. Nothing on Domash though. But over here, 2 of Knud's knights are gone. You can see, this doesn't look like a fair matchup. It looks like Knud has the edge, but over here, Domash definitely has the edge. And somebody's probably going to break. Is going to probably make the decision to leave. We had both Vladislav and Heinrich routed during the infantry phase of this turn. And that means they are going to have to both retreat. Heinrich does not have a cart, so he can't move anywhere. So I am going to actually withdraw him into the city, or the fort. He's the only guy who can go there, which means Canute might be in some trouble. I don't believe he can retreat by boat, by ship. Let me look that up. I remember there being that concept in play. Find where it's written. I think what it says is you can't retreat by ship, but it's not in the retreat rules. So I just remembered seeing something. So yeah, Heinrich's going to pull back into the castle, which they are the fort which they own. Vladislav is a different problem. He has to go back where he came from. And everybody's moved up there. I can just put that marker to remind me of the whole mess. Now, we have to check... okay. Each routed unit has to roll to see. Wait a minute. When do we leave? Oh, I missed this. The losing side rolls 1 die for each of its retreated lords and shoots that lord's service marker. Yeah, I forgot about that. That didn't happen. We did not have a lost battle before this turn, and this guy got wiped out, so it's not a big deal. I don't think the retreat happens. Yeah, the retreat happens at the end of the battle. So these guys are basically just not in the battle, which is going to be a problem because Heinrich can't retreat where he wants to. So, pull Vladislav back here. So I don't get to resolve the losses until the battle is completed, and Domash and Knud are set up against each other. Now the question here is, does Knud want to face Domash with his 2 points of missile fire coming out first, or do we want to withdraw? And that's something I got to think about a little bit. I can't actually withdraw, I would have to retreat. But one of the problems is, am I allowed to? To a locale that has no unbesieged enemy lords or strongholds. I do not have an option. I can withdraw someone into here and be destroyed, or I can I cannot go this way. I cannot go this way because he came from this way, and I can save one lord. So I am going to keep fighting, so I don't want to be permanently removed, even though it may mean that I lose 2 lords. It makes this battle incredibly important. And in fact, if I defeat the Russians here, I win the game, because I will have knocked out all their leaders. His failures on saving throws this time. Knud's forces are wiped out in the horse phase. We didn't even get to the infantry, which is where Domash had the big advantage. And now we go to the aftermath. And for the aftermath, I have to remove one of my lords. And very clearly, Heinrich is the less valuable of my lords, so I'll be taking him out of the game. Knud, is he going to be... Yeah, he's going to be facing the service problem. Is that a big deal? It is. And he has no money, which is going to be a problem. I don't know if he can escape. I figured out my answers. Knud, Heinrich is gone. Heinrich, there was no room for him to retreat, so before I made any rolls for anything, he's gone. Knud managed to save a knight and a man-at-arms. He keeps all his assets. He's in the castle. He's going to be under siege. I haven't grabbed the siege marker yet. Vladislav has kept 1 man-at-arms, which means essentially the things that are out there don't count, but if he musters more things, they'll leave more quickly, so he's probably someone who does not want to keep mustering forces. However, he's a good leader. I am allowed to have ships with Domash or with Vladislav. I am going to give Domash the ships. No, ships are not conquered. They're just destroyed. Right. He gets the extra cart. I'll give to Vladislav, I guess. I don't know. I don't think Vladislav's long for this world. Let's take a look at our counters. See, Domash is almost ready to fall, though. That's the problem. But if I give him the coins and the extra cart, he's a more powerful force than Vladislav, so that's safe, I think. We grab our siege marker and put it here. Everybody's got to eat. Haven't done that yet. Vladislav's eating. Domash And there ain't much left for Knud, so he doesn't have to eat much. He's able to drag the excess stuff because it's just a withdrawal into the city. So he has those extra provisions. And that means that this city will not just surrender. It has to be fought or he has to be starved out, which is kind of cool, I guess. We got rid of our food marker. And the service marker does not move because it was a withdrawal. So he actually doesn't fall back, which is cool. When we feed, we're allowed to pay. Now, this is the big, because this would have sent him flying off the map, quite possibly. I don't know if I want to pay. That's kind of the problem. Domash doesn't need to, so I'm not going to. Vladislav also doesn't need to, and I certainly don't actually want to. This is all Vladislav stuff out here. So yeah, I'm gonna want his term to end when it ends, rather than anything else. Which I think means we're done with this activity. And then we end up back over here with whoever is left. Now, it's going to be pretty hard to do much. There's not much you can do while you're besieged. You can't sail out of a besieged port. These guys are not going to make it in time to get up there. So then the question becomes, what happens if and when Knud has to, when the turn marker moves, Knud is going to be at his end of service. So that's the question about payment. Am I going to want to keep paying him or not to try to hold things up here? And maybe get some kind of reinforcement. There aren't a lot of leaders in the game, period. The game almost ended there, but it had gotten very lucky in the other direction. It could have well been a Teutonic win on turn 2. So this is something I find kind of strange. If Knud doesn't pay off his troops, he just disbands as normal and disappears. And it doesn't matter that it's a port, it would be anywhere, which might be his best option. He's in danger of being destroyed otherwise. You could see it as some sort of honors of war or something. I feel like that doesn't really reflect what I know of medieval warfare, which is when somebody's lodged up in a fort, they might be given honors, but if they are, the whole fort surrenders, which isn't going to happen. But also, or it wouldn't happen immediately, but also it was up to the attacker to choose that, and they might well want to capture, especially for ransom. There's cards that that give good ransom and stuff. Would I want this stuff? Well, that stuff's going to be destroyed or whatever. I don't mind that stuff dissolving. What I do mind is that Knud and Abel are able to just get away, and whatever their forces are left or whatever, aren't destroyed. All that. That kind of bugs me, but that may be an abstraction that I'm not sure that there's a way to handle within the level of this game. So, pretty successful activity by in the north by Vladislav's command, and of course he's going to probably want to disband as well as soon as possible. Are you allowed to disband early? I'm not sure how much he wants to. He doesn't want to yet. He wants to play out his commands, but he may want to disband early to get off the board so that he can I don't think I see an opportunity to disband early. And obviously that would let you slip out of one of these without any danger. You wouldn't be able to storm it or anything like that. So, I mean, that's the opportunity, is I can storm the castle and try to get rid of Knud Abel. He doesn't have a lot of forces. There's not a big defensive garrison there. It might be my best solution. Of course, the problem with that is Vladislav's the commanding leader, and he only has one man at arms, and he has to lead the first attack. He will go down in that first attack. Also, Domash does not have that much powerful strength either, so I probably just want to blockade him and, take back my fort when I can. Alright, time for a break. So briefly, Herman won the siege here in his next action, and got himself, let's see, he did 2 supplies, and then got the loot from the location. He used the loot to increase his own time. Really not sure about Yaroslav here. I didn't spend on him. He's due to go away next time. I could spend to push him out further too. I've got a lot of coins. I think I just kept pushing Herman out to make sure that I keep him on the board because he's pretty powerful. But honestly, I'm beginning. I wanted to keep these as the main reason. I can always spend later. I wanted to get rid of the loot. That's the big thing, because the loot is hard to travel with. And I'm in a location now that's friendly, so I can, count it as loot and trade it in for payment or whatever you want to call it. Gavrilo was the next, and he just counts as a pass now because he's out of the game. Herman did a number of supply activities, just grabbing up a lot of provisions. I can't move all of these. I can only move 6 of the 8, but one of them is going to get used up for wastage, actually. I'm kind of screwed because I'm going to lose a cart. But the thing is, I've used up 2 of my Herman cards. This is my 3rd one. I couldn't take Pskov this turn. There really wasn't much I could do. Settling down here to begin the next campaign season makes sense to me. And Vladislav went, and he picked up another siege marker. Now, that caused, that causes a food to everybody, actually. Yeah. I believe that causes a food loss to him too, so I'm going to check on that, but I think that's the case, and he has to eat as well. I eat with Vladislav and Damash, but I think it's everybody in the space has to eat. Following actions, Knut Abel. There's not really much I can do. I could sally out, or I could pass. I passed in both cases. That doesn't cost anything, no food. On the other hand, Gavrilo, nothing. A Vladislav action, a bunch of supply actions, I guess. I could do forage just as well. He's only getting 1 per. I'm not allowed to use Damash's food source, even though I have plenty of carts. I don't have any ships, so I'm getting slow growth. I had actually screwed up. I think I only took 1 off Damash. I think I only took 2 points off Damash for Vladislav and Damash. Damash himself had to eat 2. So, yeah, that's been reappropriated. And one of the problems with this is Vladislav is sitting with all the food. And when he dissolves, he doesn't leave that behind. He takes it off with him on his march, which can leave mixed forces kind of in a problematic situation. So I got to think about my coinage here. I got Damash here. I definitely need to pay Damash off. It doesn't have to happen right now, but I may want to do it just in case something terrible happens. There are things that I may not be considering, so we'll push his markers out. Plus, you get to see something I've been doing a lot of anyway. And then the final card, another Knut Abel. He's not doing anything. And another Gavrilo, nothing there. So it's time for end of turn cleanup. And we go through the cleanup. There was some wastage that got thrown out. All the carts turned into sleds. You can see some people like Knut and Abel, they did a wastage on their sled just to get rid of it. Got that there. And we're in the levy phase here in turn 3. That's going to bring a new leader available to be mustered. Back here, if I need them. I don't know if I do right now. Yeah, it's kind of the gosh, what do we want to do right now? And yeah, we'll head into the levy phase and see what we come up with. But it's kind of an interesting situation because the Russians have won up here in the north and they've lost in the south. And you know, this isn't complete yet, and Knut's going to get out of there because his trigger is this turn. He gets to dissolve. But again, that gives Vladimir, or that gives really Dimash, because Vladislav, he'll lead them, I guess, for the next turn, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to keep him on the board in this weak of fashion any longer than I have to. I'm just using him for his leadership value. Nobody's getting rid of any of their Art of War cards, I don't think. Certainly can't get rid of this one. Might get rid of this one because this is kind of a nice event to screw with the Grand Prince, and it doesn't look like me. It doesn't. Heinrich's gone, and Knut and Abel weren't able to do anything anyway. They're going to be gone for a while. Let's throw them back in the deck and get a chance at messing with that. But other than that, I think we want to keep all of these. Yeah. Well, the event cards had a significant effect here. Let's see. First one, this Torzok, remove up to 3 assets from Domash, or up to 3 coin from the Vesh. Well, there's only 1 coin in the Vesh. So what I did was I took a coin in the sleds away from Domash, and that weakens him tremendously. Actually, probably should take the coin away instead of the sled. Leave him with 1 sled. Because he can levy a sled fairly easily. Levying coin is not easy. That seems pretty impressive, but not absolutely, vital. And then I got a hold card, the Hill Defense. Okay, great. Over here, he already had that, but we got 2. Death of the Pope, which removed the legate and discarded William of Modena, and he can't be brought about in this levy. So that's kind of exciting. But this one is perhaps the big one. Danish unrest after King's death. Knut Abel or their service marker can be moved up to 1 box. Now, if they were, not on the board currently, that would delay their entry for a turn. But in this case, I've pushed their service behind the current turn. Remember, I was planning on getting out of there. Well, now I'm gone. Probably, I think for the game, unless something happens, which I don't think can, that would generate a coin that could be used for them. So they are pretty much out of play for the rest of the game. That's a pretty potent card to just remove a noble from the game. Yes, it's based on circumstances, but it's not unlikely that you're set up to remove a leader from the board. Some of these might be useful to know, but on the other hand, this is sort of historically what happened. So kind of a weird thing where the only levy is actually on the Teutonic side. Yaroslav gets stonemasons. Now I could build a stronger castle here right away. This is a fort, so it's allowed to be upgraded for that. Assume this is controlled on besieged fort. You can't just throw a castle down on somebody else's. Maybe you can and it'll be theirs. I don't know. I got trebuchets for Herman, and I rallied Rudolf on castle to provide some potential force. So there's 2 options with Rudolf. He might slide down and join my force at Pskov. That might be an option. Another might be to try to defend Estonia from the Rus, because there's no Danes up there. Heinrich is gone. So I put him in kind of the middle space. I could have brought Andreas in, but I didn't know I was going to roll a 1. Rudolph is very likely to come in, so he's kind of a good choice for an emergency type situation there. 3 lords will make it easier to siege Pskov. I might be doing something like move to someplace like here. Remember, the sleds are able to travel over water or land, so that's kind of cool. And then pull back to Pskov as he comes in, and then just lay it down to a siege. That'll get a home for Yaroslav into Rus and defend all kind of stuff, and then I'd have a castle here and more victory points and all kind of cool shit there. I don't really... The fort doesn't seem as impressive as having a town because I create more victory points with the town. The problem is my enemy could capture that location and get a victory point from it, but yeah, you know, whatever. So what is the other situation here? Beyond that, there's nothing I can levy here because I'm sitting at a siege, which kind of sucks, but that's life. And that means no rolls to try to bring more lords in or anything. I had this guy available, I guess. And then we go to the call to arms. The legate's gone, so that's not an issue. The Vesh, I could bring a lord in and lose my victory point. But the problem is I can't bring Alexander in. He would probably be the one I want to do. Remove one to slide the calendar a box left. I could try to bring Alexander closer for a victory point, but on the other hand, this is only a victory point, right? I think. I think they're only a single victory point each. Let me make sure. No, they get multiple victory points for bigger castles. Ouch. Oh, wow. I don't know. So after setting my programming, Herman went twice. Once, Vladislav went in between, but we'll get to that. I chose not to build my castle here. It doesn't give me any additional victory points. It just gives me an extra defense point there. I want to get the victory points by creating a castle somewhere in, you know, in one of these towns, preferably on the way to Novgorod. So I'm thinking this town probably, although that's a little bit more risky than putting it out here because the Russians can take the town. But it also helps defend Pskov, which I've taken. Amazingly, on the second roll, I did a couple supply actions, did a siege, and I did some payoffs with the loot to get Yaroslav and Herman up a little higher. Over on Vladislav, well, he did a siege action, got his 3rd siege marker there. I was not able to get more than 1 siege marker over on Pskov, which is one reason I did the assault. And I haven't checked Herman's man-at-arms there. He might be gone. I'm sorry, knight. Not knight. Sergeant. The terms are kind of weird because, I don't know, you know, horse knights would and sergeants would lose their horses, you know, and become men-at-arms, and that's not really covered in this. Oh, God. It's not just my foot that's hurting now. I kind of sat on my beanbag poorly and hurt my wrist. And now that's all gone. It's like everything's falling apart at once. Okay. So anyway, I got the victory points marked over here. And I'm running off to a big lead. Doing pretty damn well, actually. And Vladislav is not going to be able to do another siege action this time. He's going to have to grab some supplies. He could do an assault, though, and finish this off. He's got, you know, 3 levels of siege there, so that might... Maybe he should have just done the assault. The problem with that is it's Vladislav. He only has 8 man-at-arms. At least now he has as much wall. And the trebuchet, and the Ballistari. But the trebuchet helped by reducing the walls that were defending the men-at-arms that were in there. The Ballistari reduce its own armor. So I was looking at, each saving throw was like a 2 and then a 1 for every hit that I generate. And for archery, that was like 3 hits, right? No, 2 hits. And then for the assault, it was just huge numbers of hits. So the only good thing that went for the Russians was they killed that sergeant, which they had 3 units to begin with, but, between walls and I guess the limited armor, I got away kind of lucky. Slav, I'm actually facing kind of an ugly situation here, which is I took 2 of my commands and generated, I wonder if I paid this. I think I did. I generated myself 2 provisions with that, but that's not enough to get me the attack if it doesn't succeed. So, I guess I'll go to 3 provisions. That's enough to get me another siege marker up there, but I've just got this ugly situation, and I can't use Domash. You know what? I could use Domash in the second round. So yeah, I'm gonna launch that assault because if I win, and it's very likely I win with all those troops against just 1 man-at-arms, then I end up with enough food to feed my people. Right now I don't have it, and Domash is going to suffer a hit. So Vladislav's attack was successful. Now I've got a problem. In terms of cards, I've got 1 more Vladislav card, but after that all I have are Domash cards, and unless Vladislav finds his way off the map, Domash cards are considered passes. It was conceivable that Vladislav could get knocked off the map, though, due to combat. He'd be going forever then, so it made sense not to throw passes in there. For Herman, since I have this, I pushed forward. And then did 2 supply runs. Now I have so many sleds. I have 4 sleds. So 1, 2, 3. I think, wait, 1, 2, yeah, 3 to there, and 1, 2, 3, 4 to there. Doing 2 supply runs, I was able to grab 4 more food than 3 to feed me because of the moved marker, and I'm there with a decent amount of food. Now, unlike lieutenants, when a marshal carries you, you're not stacked under him, which means Yaroslav can take his actions, and he hopes to be able to build that castle at the end of it. And he could also walk away on his own. The marshal seems very, very powerful, comparatively. So, yeah. Almost nothing I can do with Vladislav. Having won the battle there, I grabbed 3 provisions. If I had marched, because Domash is so large, I would have taken hits on him, which I didn't want to do. But these provisions aren't going to help me at all. They're going to get eaten. They're going to be sitting on Vladislav's card. I can't trade them over to Domash for anything. So the question really was, did I want to march Domash and take a hit against his accessibility? And honestly, I think maybe that makes more sense. Get him down in the way here. For next turn, we'll be getting more leaders. So yeah, 1, I have no provisions, so it's very easy to move. 2, and 3rd command, nobody eats, and that means Vladislav and Domash's pieces. I didn't have this guy on top. I put him on what may be he may be 1 further out, or should be 1 further out. Now, I can pay. I don't want to start losing Domash units, but I'm not really sure I want to pay that coin. I don't know. Good. I actually just saved myself something. This is actually very cool, because now my Domash cards are going to work. Okay, so as long as I don't pay for coin for Vladislav, he's coming off the map, which means Domash is now freed up as if he had been moving with a marshal. Again, there's some gamey shit that can happen in this. There's no question about that. But the question I have is whether Domash wants to pay his coin. I think I'm going to hold off because I don't know what I'm going to do, which means Vladislav comes off. I should get some of the dead guys out of here because he's at the current turn. If he had fallen further behind, he would be gone from the game. More Vladislav stuff. And the sled goes away. He goes back here, and these get discarded. And now I'll have them available for later, which is kind of cool because Streltsky and the Luchniki are both very valuable. And that means he comes off, and I think he goes out his service turns, which is 1, 2, 3, so he'll be available out there. It's kind of nice to lose him now and not during the levy phase when I was counting on it. Not just because it frees up Domash, but for other reasons as well. The fact that, he's recharged more quickly because of it. Again, lots of quirky little things going on here. Except that Domash is going to fall back. So yeah, I want to pay the coin so I don't lose his militia. Because I think I'll be able to feed and keep my guys in good shape. Maybe not. Oh no, Domash is here, so yes, I'm within range from my sled to grab me some food. So I'll be able to do a lot of stuff, actually. Finish this off with Yaroslav building his castle and grabbing some additional provisions. 2 commands each, able to hit 2 areas each. 2 commands, each area able to hit 2 areas, so 4 provisions there after he spent the 6, which was all sitting on him. It didn't have to be. He could have used some of Herman's. And then for Domash here, what he did was a turn using 2 commands for provisioning, 1, 2, gathered those up, then moved. He was weighted, so he had to spend both commands to move into Novgorod. And he spent his 2 provisions because he's a big force. And then he once again supplied himself twice from Novgorod. So all we have on the board is Domash at this point. And we're at the end of the turn, which means I look to the end of the campaign stuff. It's not the end of the game. It's not a plow and reap. So we look for wastage, and then we reset. Starting the levy phase, a couple of events drawn. The first one was actually this famine card, which Russian supplies at a maximum of 1 provender per command card from seats, not from boats, and forage adds ships, and forage adds none, which means the Russians are going to have a lot more trouble conducting any kind of campaign. Given this is winter, it may be kind of hard anyway. And also, a Lithuanian chief rating added a half victory point up there. On the other hand, I got a hold card, just kind of a cool one. Adds a bunch of provender to a Lord and Ross. That'll help make up for the famine. And then a counteracting raid over here, which generated a half victory point, which I'm having to put off the calendar. There's no 0 space. Such is life. That'll get us over to let me see. May not discard or unless permitted by rule. Yeah. That's gonna get us over to the pay where we have an immediate problem with Yaroslav. I'm gonna have to either pay him, which might be valuable with those stone basins and a lot of provender in place. I might be able to shift up to here, so I have to do some thought about that before I make that decision. Others, they can pay if they want to boost, so like Domash might want to keep pushing himself further and further out with the coins he has. Well, he has no coins, so that's one of the things. If a leader has coins or loot, you kind of want to keep rolling them in further and further down the calendar, unless they're worn out and don't have anything they can muster anymore, which is, of course, the problem. But yeah, And I've got coins on other people, but I don't have any real need to spend anything. I got a coin here if I want to keep pushing Dimash, but again, there's no real need to yet. And he may have a capability to generate a coin. Okay, and for the Teutonic actions, Yaroslav got himself another sled. Herman grabbed 2 sleds, and Rudolph grabbed 1. The additional thing is William of Modena was brought back in. He brought him in at some bishopric, but then did his action to move him up to here. So he can summon my real marshal and take command of the forces, the fear being Alexander coming in somehow. Now, what I forgot about with the Alexander thing is, I can't just muster. I need to spend a victory point out of Novgorod, in which case, well, I had to gain one there. That happened a little afterwards. For levying, I brought some additional crappy forces, the Karelians, into play, and then Domash got himself a sled. We really don't have a force to stand. This may be over if we end up fighting against Herman. It doesn't look like a good fight for us, but on the other, so we may want to fall back and hope for the best. The danger there, though, is if these fall, Alexander and Andrei cannot be mustered. Then I'll be left with really Vladislav as the only possible reinforcement left, I think, because Gavarone or whatever is gone, and I think that gets us to the campaign season, and things do not look good for the Rus right now. This guy's loose, which means he could conceivably sail up this way and try to gain more victory points here. Of course, by doing so, he's exposing himself because he might not be strong enough to handle Domash and the Karelians. On the other hand, at the very least, he can position himself up there and then muster some, well, 1 unit. He only has a leadership of 1 in the future, but yeah, Definitely forgot to move the coins this time at the Vesh. It's the kind of fiddly stuff I'm really bad at. There's a lot in this game of, very procedural type actions that you just have to do each one, and if you forget one, you end up in a bad situation like that. And I could have ended up, and maybe I missed one before. I don't think that made too much of a difference if I did. The Russian position is somewhat different. Herman grabbed some supplies, moved here, started the siege. He's about to launch his attack, but I'm grabbing more supplies, and my numbers aren't making sense right now. So let's see. I think I grabbed all my supplies. I'm just about ready to roll the siege for that. Yeah, there's no restriction. It doesn't matter that I'm not in a friendly location. Over here, the Karelians built up some supply, started moving, and they should have eaten that supply. I forgot to eat it. But yeah, I'll take care of Herman's. Herman's just gonna assault. That's because he did the supply action. The assault was successful at no losses. It's pretty easy when you have a big army to just run into one of these things. And so we got our victory point, which is up there. We took a loot, a coin, a provender, and of course the victory point. The loot, Yaroslav used it to push himself forward. I've got the coin over on Herman. I'm planning on keeping Herman in the game, but I may have to pay him as well. I don't know that I want to do it just yet. There's no real harm either way, but like if his forces got reduced greatly, he might start paying things for Yaroslav. Is the only thing. And that's going to push us back over to the Russians, and boy, does it look ugly for them. All these sleds, Herman's able to trace 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces. He's got 7 sleds on his side, and get his 2 provender whenever he, or for that matter, Yaroslav can do the same. Because his is in one of Herman's. Whenever he does a supply phase. So they've got a great supply route going up. And so I was able to grab myself 1 supply in this case. Well, 1 supply run, two provenders, and then move myself up to here where I'm planning on building another fortress, or another castle. Which gets me another victory point, and, well, you know, yes, it's something that I have to defend is the only problem, because those castles become victory points for the Rus as much as for me if they fall. They're a little better defended than most things, though, and you can take a look. You can see they have 2 men-at-arms and a knight in them. It's much harder to attack Teutonic territories. And they're not worth much, I assume. Yeah, because these are on-board castles, yeah, so, okay. And then here, well, I'm not in a great position because the Karelians are not going to be able to move. Domash is in a position where he's got a lot of units, so all his supplies, he took a supply action, only able to get 1 moved to here. And we're going to try to gather our forces, but man, things just, I don't know. Not a good position. The nice thing is next turn Alexander becomes available, and then I can spend my victory point and get him back, get him on the board with that for whatever that's worth. And then he, if he's still around, could actually bring his son into play, or no, brother into play. But we have Yaroslav, who is going to be working on that castle. Now, he doesn't have enough provender right now, so he's going to have to do 2 commands to grab provender and get himself 4 provender for that, which will give him enough for next turn. So unless the Russians somehow figure out a way to attack him, that castle is getting built. Castle is built. We got a Domash card. He was able to grab himself 1 provender, no more than that. He can't move with 1, that would cause him issues, so he passes because he can't grab more provender. And then I had a Rudolph card buried in the bottom, so I'm not getting out of there or gathering up more resources. Instead, Rudolph gathered resources, grabbed himself 2 provender here, and then Leyden, he moved 1 space with his remaining 2 commands. And so he's here. I had been thinking I could get up to here, and I could have, but then I would not have been able to grab more provender from there. Now, let's see, if I had moved here and then gotten my provender, I could have gotten up to 2 provender. So here's the thing, I could have only taken 1 provender and moved unladen 1, 2. And that would leave me with 1 provender up on the shore. But the problem with that is my sled can only get me 1. But you know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that instead. The reason being, that puts me in a better position to threaten things up here and to force the Russians to make a decision one way or another, which force they're going to take on. I don't know how much decision there really is in that. I guess it all kind of comes down to whether Alexander is going to be on the board and what kind of effectiveness I have, because I would really need to get rid of this stuff and start pushing it back. And Alexander is about the only thing that can do that, especially in conjunction with these other leaders. On the other hand, if I judge that Alexander can handle these on his own, I could send these off to go fight him. I don't know. They're getting further and further away from where the Landmeister of Livonia is going to show up. So, they may be stretched a little too far. We'll see. All right. I think that's the end of the campaign, and pretty close to the end of this video. Because what do we got left? It's not the game end. It is not a plow and reap. Well, it sort of is. This would be the time not plow and weep, not plow and weep. Yeah, this would be the time when the Crusaders would go home because it's the end of the year. But they're not going to go home, so we got wastage, and that's about it. And I can do the wastage, I guess, on the video. Rudy is going to eat his provender. The reason being, sleds are more important. They can refuel me more easily. Over here, Herman, he has to lose something. It will definitely be a provender. He's got great. But unfortunately, Yaroslav's going to get rid of the stonemasons. That'll be the thing he discards. That gets me what is probably a pretty good card. Yeah, that's a pretty decent card. To bring, to recharge lords quicker or whatever. To have that in the deck seems like a good idea. So I think we got rid of everybody here. And now we check over here, and here's where the problem is. I've got this, and I do not want to lose that card. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to lose the sled. I'm going to either lose the sled or lose the card, and either one can be regenerated. The Corellians, on the bright side, didn't have anything with them. Yeah, I wish I had another preventer on hand, but I do not. And this card goes away. It was only for this turn. And over here, I want to keep that, I guess. This is kind of cool. It's kind of like that other one, but I do like that coin a turn. That's probably more useful than having a card in the deck. Anything here? Nothing I want to get rid of, that's for sure. So yeah, we're good. And we're going into the next turn's levy, which I'll put up here. But that'll be on the next video. And so yeah, we made it through a year. And you know, it's telling a story. It's telling a story that's followable. I think once you get used to kind of the procedural, finicky aspects to it, it frees you up a little bit more. You can make the decisions on the programming a little bit easier. I'm finding myself constantly having to go back and say, no, that doesn't actually work. Can I change that? As if it's a learning game, which it is. But yeah, I mean, if I was playing this opposed for the first time with someone, I definitely would expect to be like, oh wait, I set my stuff up and now I realize I can't do what I meant to. Can I take that back? Yeah, sure, you can do that. I think there's a fair amount of that. But yeah, you do have to put in. So there's 2 points where you have to put in a lot of thought at the levy stage, and then when you program those cards. And both of those are kind of painful kind of thoughts to me. But so far, it's worth it for the story that it's producing. And except for a few things that I've got like some niggly concerns about, a couple of the gamier aspects like losing the commanding lord and being able to run off without him, or using the marshal to kind of double move your pieces, both of which kind of bug me. In either case, that kind of, I can get 6 moves essentially if I program things right. I do not like that, and that just feels like I'm exploiting something that either I don't understand something in the rules, or there's a flaw in the system with that for me, because that kind of penetration, yeah, sure, forces could make that kind of movement in terms of the rates of move for men, at that point, but come on, it does not make sense to me. The limitations that are put there for a reason, and it seems like I'm finding a way to circumvent them, and I just don't know if I accept that. But outside of that, I do like what it's doing, and so far that's not really bothering me enough. It just does feel like an exploit. And there's a couple of other places, like somebody getting knocked off, getting someone off on a particular turn instead of waiting till the next turn so that they cycle back a little quicker, stuff like that. that doesn't bother me anywhere near as much. It's the extended movement that I can achieve. That's got me a little worried. But so far the game is new and exciting enough. And, you know, I don't know anything else that covers this kind of warfare. Yeah. I'm thinking, wow, I wish that this kind of representation of warfare was present in something like Kingmaker instead of the really kind of incorrect huge stacks moving around, dominating the countryside, which just feels completely unrealistic. This is actually giving me something that feels like medieval armies operating the way that I understand that they operate, or at least it's making a pretty damn good attempt at it, which, you know, is probably the best one can expect. I had to look at the movement, see if there's some kind of restriction based on... So the subordinate lord can't move if his commander is still there. So his cards don't count. But it looks to me like the marshal can push somebody forward 3 spaces or 3 actions, and then, well, 3 activation cards, and then that guy can run off and do 3 more activations all on his own. And then there's the exploit of getting rid of the lieutenant just at the moment that, well, when you still have cards in the deck for his lesser commander. Both of those bug me. I'm going to take a peek before I load this up, see if I'm just totally misplaying this. And any restriction on the martial capability. For the lieutenant, there's something that almost sort of says things, but not quite. So one thing that it says is the upper lord is lieutenant, overseeing the lower lord for the entire campaign, barring the removal of either. And to me, that exempts, or the barring the removal of either removes this part. Revealing a lower lord's command card results in a pass. He's no longer a lower lord once the command is removed. That one could be fixed with a little errata. I don't know what to do about the marshal. And again, I don't know if these are intended. They do seem wrong to me, though. So, you know, for example, with Herman and Yaroslav, I'm already using Herman's 3 command to do Yaroslav 3 times. So I'm getting 9 commands on Yaroslav under Herman as the marshal. And now I get up to 6 more commands with Yaroslav, which is what he could do on his own. I think what I wish would happen is every time a leader is moved, like each leader could only be moved, could only be activated 3 times or something like that to prevent it. It would be an extra little complexity to the game. So if somebody's being used in the following situations: by a marshal, as under a lieutenant, or as part of a siege action. Because if you're doing a siege assault, you are activated along with the besieging leader, even if there's no lieutenant or marshal present. Now, the problem with that is the thing that actually uses up your time, the siege, the only thing that it requires is the number of lords that are present. So you could say, well, only these lords are used. But yeah, I could see something using some extra markers to make this. And I would actually say that's an optional rule that I think probably should have been included in the game. Given the optional rules with, you know, the shortened, with the vassal timing, how kind of useless that is, this other optional rule seems a lot more efficacious to the play of the game than that does. That really is not having much impact. it's having a little, which is to say I keep having to pay lords who have vassals who have very low command points. I have to pay them a little quicker, or I have to move up close before I raise my vassals, which you probably want to do anyway because you don't want to be paying their supply as you're moving around in the back ends and whatnot. All right, that's some thoughts, and let's send this up. We might be finishing this in, I would guess, at least 2 more videos. There's 3 more years left, so 2 or 3 more videos. Let's see.